Good?
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Hey, everyone. If you don't know me, my name's Pat. My wife and I own DNS here. Thank you all for coming. Tonight we have Jim Kusuda here. He's going to be talking about Vexilars and other forward-facing sonars and how to use them to target panfish, perch, here on the Madison Chain. Jim is a pro staff for clam
And Vexilar.
Vexilar. Yep. Very knowledgeable. Mendota Jim is what they call him.
Why, I don't know. Mendota Mental Health Institute.
There you go, yeah. But yeah, should be a great presentation. And my light guy is on his way, but I'll be your light guy until.
Okay, well,
he
yeah,
gets
I'll
here.
just introduce myself. I'm Jim Kusuda, and I really want to thank Pat for continuing on with the shop and the traditions, and it means a lot to the community and to us guys that love to ice fish. So
Well, thanks. Yeah.
appreciate
I'm happy to do it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
let's give Jim a round of applause. And start here.
Okay, I guess you can dim the lights if you want.
Yep.
So this is what it's all about, really, is just being able to get some fish. And it's like if I can get my slideshow to work. Here's a pretty good catch. Let me try something here. I don't know if I can do it, but I'm going to try it anyways. Is that working? Okay. Well, that's pretty good. So anyways, what I'm trying to do here is just to show that deep water perch fishing is basically you get what you get. So some might call it catch and kill, but the reality is that you're gonna not be able to always catch nice ones, and releasing isn't really much of an option. There's so much barrow trauma involved. So in this catch here, which is a good catch, you can see a lot of different sizes, probably different year classes, which is a good thing. But anyways, let's focus in on this guy right here. See if I had my pointer thing working, I could show you. But this one in the middle here, just so we keep it in context what we're fishing for in Madison. See, this is 12 and a half, and you can see it's the same fish because it has like a short bar in the middle. And on the digital scale, it's 1 pound, 2 3/8. So nothing really exceptional, but you know, as perch go, if you want to get bigger perch, you're going to have to travel. But around here, you know, this is what we consider to be a nice one. And here's a different day, you can tell, because it's all slushy and stuff. And like, you know, I try and mix it up. This was, you know, one day. This might have been the first day I got out last year. I was pretty happy, and then called a club outing the next day, and we had 5 members out there, and we did pretty good. Because the timing's the thing. Is like if you're on them, that's the time to go. So this is another nice catch, but this is actually, this catch here is a little more consistent, I would have to say, as far as size. You know, those are all what I consider to be nice ones, you know. But this is how it starts out. And so I just want to show you here, I'm using the FLX-30, and I've got 2 holes drilled, and I've got 2 of my, those are Jason Mitchell meat sticks, and I'm going to show you guys what that is, and just some wire rod holders, but that's the start of it. This was like last year. Now this is a picture I wanted to show you because a lot of this stuff when you're perch fishing, it's kind of how you bring it together. You know, how you can be comfortable and having your setup. So here it's cold out, so I'm actually in a little one-man shelter. I don't know if you can see it on the perimeter. But I've got the Mr. Heater Portable Buddy up pretty tight to me, because if you've used those, you know, the heat rises kind of out of the top. It doesn't really project as well as if it had a fan. But by having it there in front of me, the rods and lines can't really touch the heating element, you know, because if you touch that protection screen, they're gone, and you just lost your whole rig, or probably a nice fish is what usually really happens. But I have it so that, you know, the sides and back of the Mr. Heater portable buddy could touch the line or touch the rod. No issue, because those things you can have them right up against your shelter tent. And I've got the FLX-28 running, and as you can see, the screen is really pretty crowded. There's a lot of marks on that screen. That's one of the things that you forego when you have two lines in the water and you're running hanger rigs. You're going to just have a lot of marks down there, and that can kind of clutter up what you're trying to see as far as your targets, your fish. But, you know, with this setup, that doesn't mean you have to have both lines in the water all the time. A lot of times I'll have one poised just sitting there at the top, all baited, ready to go. And when I get the fish that I'm catching out, you know, I might not even unhook it. I'll reach over and flip the bail and send the other one shooting down the hole. And then I can unhook this one, put it in my bucket, and, you know, engage the crank and be fishing again. So the other thing I want to show you is that, see, I've got a bubbler. There's bubbles in those holes, and it's hard to see, but there's a clam aerator. I just set it on the back of my Vexilar there, and they have two outlets, and I'm going to pass it around in a minute, but it has two outlets, so you can run two air stones. I just dropped them in the holes. It keeps the skim ice from forming in your hole. You can't run the air stones if you're hole hopping, because if it's cold out, it'll just freeze the air stone. It'll just become, so you just have a little electrical tape on the transducer cord. That'll help. The longer or the deeper you can run the hose, the better, because then it actually brings more of the warmer water up, but there's a limit to it. They don't have a ton of power, so you can't really pump it down much below a foot. So you notice I put my fish in a bucket of water, and part of that is a throwback to when I was fishing tournaments. You had to bring your fish in live and, you know, to weigh in and stuff. But what I found, especially for perch fishing, is that you see the stomach contents of the fish, because their gullet will usually eject whatever they had in there. And if you pour this out on the snow, you can look at it and kind of study it. And I wish I, you know, did study it a little more. Not that it would make a heck of a difference, but I bet if I had like close-up pictures of what these little bugs are, like, it would be pretty cool. I mean, some we categorize as bloodworms, and it's really good to see that. See, when you look at your bucket and it looks like that, it's like, whoa, those fish are really feeding off the bottom, okay? And then when you dump it out and it looks like this, it's like, well, you obviously got minnows, and maybe I see a couple spikes because probably the fish ripped me off. But you see, and you see the bloodworms. But what are these? You know, what is that? Do you guys recognize what those are? I heard it. Say it. Talk up. This is Devil's Lake, North Dakota. Those are the freshwater shrimp. Yeah, and the reason I brought that up is because, see, this is what the fish look like there. They're just well fed, they're very healthy, and, you know, you catch walleyes mixed in, small walleyes, in this case, small walleyes, but when the fish are able to eat freshwater shrimp, like here, when we have a good forage base, it's like Daphnia, it's water lice, it's just like, you've seen them when you drill the hole and you're looking at it and you see a little tiny black dot going deep, deep. That's a water lice, what we categorize as water, Daphnia mendotae. And the problem that we've had is that there's invasives. The spiny water flea is a bigger kind of zooplankton that eats the spiny, or the spiny eats the Daphnia, but it's not as gloom and doom as I once was kind of projecting. It actually is kind of tapered off. There's been really good blooms of zooplankton, and even the different lakes on the chain, you'll see variations. You know, you would think that the infestation would, if it's in Mendota, it would be throughout the chain, but actually I find that it's not as bad as it could be. So this is Devil's Lake, North Dakota, and I encourage you guys, if you ever get the chance to go there and try it, it's really something. But so, and this is just showing that you can have a minnow rig here, and this is just minnow. Looks like I killed it. I was a little rough on this guy, so that's not very good. But the point is that I have a bait button on there, and that's just a little rubber disc. So you can get those, and they come in a dispenser with a notch in it, and you shake one down into the notch, and you put it on your hook after you put on your minnow. And so on the minnow pole, this is one thing that you can have. It's just a spring bobber rod, and the deal is that you just have to kind of keep an eye on it because the minnow should be alive and it should be finning. But when you see it like tipping down, that means just get over there. You know, I usually have it where I might have to walk a step or two, but you got to get to it quick because this indicates the fish has that. You know, if it's up, he might have already spit it out. So you got to hit it in all cases. This is just one example because I'm using a spring bobber and I'm talking about a minnow pole, but like a third line. But in any case, you only have the duration to strike and set the hook when that fish has that bait in his mouth. Now keep in mind, fish don't have hands. They can't go say, well, oh, that's interesting. They have to use their mouth. So the duration that they are inspecting something, whether it's curiosity, hunger, anger, you have to set the hook. So that comes into play in a big time. Now this happens to be a picture of perch from Waubay, South Dakota, Lake Waubay in Webster, South Dakota. And I'm just showing you that you notice how the fish look a little different where you go traveling around, but they're the same species. And there are a lot of similarities, you know. But keep in mind that here, you know, we live in Madison and there's a lot of really good fishing around here. This was the fishing club outing we had, and I was very fortunate to be able to land this guy on my perch pole. You can kind of see I got this little skinny thing with 4-pound test mono, and if you ever have this happen to you, because it happens, okay, you're out there perch fishing, you're going to get a nice big walleye, and what you have to remember is that if you're fishing the basin, there's nothing for that fish to tangle you on. There's no way that he can use objects to his advantage other than the ice fishing hole. So the key is don't get him near the hole until you are good and ready. You have to settle your nerves because you're going to have buck fever. But also you have to have the fish, you know, kind of where you can guide him on out and decide whether you want to keep or release him. But Madison has really got a lot of good perch fishing, so I'm really happy to see that you guys showed up. I was kind of hoping that it was going to be snow out and I would get out of this whole thing, but the school kids got out, not me. Yeah, hit the lights. Thanks, Ranger. So the thing I'm going to stress here with this, and it really doesn't matter if you can read that or not, but first I want to pass around that aerator thing, and I'll just start it here, and we can pass stuff around. And so the thing about my presentation here is that, yes, I know we're talking about electronics and using it and how you adapt for, you know, perch fishing in the basin, but the reality is that it's just fishing. Like, you have to be able to catch these fish. It doesn't matter if you can see them on the Vexilar. It doesn't matter if you can see them on the live scope. It really doesn't matter if you can see them on the underwater camera. You have to bring them topside. So the bottom line is that you got to get dialed in. So what I'm going to talk about is the rods. And so if you see like those pictures, this is like the rigs that I'm running here. And I'll pass this around. This is a symmetry, and I'm an old guy who likes rear drag for the reason that I can just snap the spool right off. You know, if I want to go to put on mono or braid, you know, I can. But that's what I run, a 24-inch meat stick. Now, a lot of you guys want to run different lengths. It's totally preference. You just have to kind of start trying different things and get used to what you like and get confidence, and confidence comes from success. So this one I'm going to pass around, and I'm going to ask you just to keep this twist tie on, because what I used to do, well, these are high-speed retrieve, they're like 6.2, and what I used to have a problem with was that I would open up my rod bag and the reel would start advancing in the case, and then this meat stick is very, very limber tip, and so you pull your fishing pole out and it's broke, and it's the start of the day that you figure this stuff out. But the other thing is that when you'd have beginners, you know, they're sitting here like this, and they got the hanger rig and the leader, and they want to reel this perch. They want to reel this perch all the way up to here, but it doesn't go there because he got the hanger rig. So I remember like Joe Okada would put a piece of peep sight tubing here to try and be a shock absorber, but the reality is that you can't reel a hanger rig up through here, and so I'm just going to ask you to not to crank this one, but you're more than welcome to take a look at the hook and see. If you notice, I'm putting this into a piece of electrical tape on the handle. There is a hook holder there, a hook keeper, but I don't trust that. It's like ice fishing is rough on equipment. Your stuff gets bounced around in your tackle bag. Just jam it in here. That's why I have an extra wrap of tape. And you can see the hanger rig, and this is like another option which is actually very popular. This is actually the 28-inch dead meat. And so this one is the newer version because it has larger guides, which it keeps it easier to keep the line free. And it's a little bit longer, so a lot of people like this. And the thing I like about these Mitchell combos is that the Jason Mitchell Elite Series is that they have a folding handle. So then that actually can be used to stop this reel from advancing. Plus in my rod bags, you know, it folds down, so you can put a lot of these in a rod bag because that reel is just flat. Now, I use these reels with the folding handles of the smaller size. I'll use that for other panfish. But when I'm deep water perch fishing, this is what I use. I use big, large 2500 series reels because that's just me. It's like what you're used to, you know. And these wire rod holders, they're nothing special. They're just regular things. But you got to find rod holders that you can do a quick draw on, because these perch, you know, you set it down there and that thing is, you know, Murphy's Law. You're going to take a bite of that sandwich and that rod's going to dip. And what I said is that the fish only has it in his mouth for a certain amount of time. So if you got to grab it like this, you grab it like that. You know, you got to find some kind of setup where you can go for it quick. The line, I just had Pat spool me up 4-pound Trilene XL clear because I'm confident in that and I know it'll get the job done. It's nothing fancy, but it's good line and it's relatively limp in cold weather. The leader material, I don't run 4-pound line. Now, you would think this is counterintuitive because you'd think, well, Jim, you know, these fish are really finicky, fussy things and you're trying to really fool them and get the light bite. Well, the deal is that I've seen people snap off 2-pound line on the hook set. And I've fished long enough to where I know I'm lazy and I don't change my leaders as frequently as I maybe should. But also, like Gene used to say, is that when you're getting a big school coming through and you're hammering them, you're rough on equipment. You're trying to get that hook out of that fish and you're rough on your leader. 6-pound. I run 6-pound mono as a leader. I can run fluoro, but I run 6-pound mono, just same simple Trilene XL. And the reason that I don't think I have that much of a problem with making the fish get line shy is because I always tie with a loop knot. So the deal is that I'm going to pass around a couple of perch rigs, and the jig here is tied with a loop knot, and so when you see that loop knot, that thing will just flop when when I actually hook on some bait, there's different ways of hooking on spikes. Spikes is what I generally fish with. You know, the Dave Gens way is the always, what is it? The scent sack. So you roll the spike like this, and you look at the round end, not the pointed end, because the pointed end is the head of a maggot. And you take the round end, and there's two little dots, and you nick it through the scent sack like that. And that will actually keep it alive, and that's Dave. But now we're talking Jim Kusuda here. And I just take and T-bone it on like a hot dog on a stick or something like that, you know. So I want to have a lot of bait on, and I want to have it on fast, so I'll take 2 at a time, and I'll just crank them on there. And I just have a minimum of 4 of these things on here at a time. And the deal is, and I learned this from Travis Richardson, he had one of the first aqua views where the viewer was actually like a boot. It was this big plastic shoe. And we were out there in Gene's Shacks filming. They had to cut the sound off because we had this old tank top heaters, and all you could hear was just the whole thing. But watching this thing, when you jig it underwater in 60 feet of water, it flops like a piece of popcorn. It's really neat. And this jig I happen to be running is a rocker, a small spoon blade soldered to a little Aberdeen hook. You want to get the one with the Aberdeen is longer than the spoon blade, so you got plenty of room to pack it full of maggots. But the size of the spoon blade is relatively the same size as a maggot. So, and it's glow on one side and the back side is silver. I always like that silver flash because in my mind that is a cue to the perch that it's a minnow, I have to attack it. I can't just suck it in like a bug. But the point is that this thing will bounce around and flop, and that's what it looks like when it's underwater. And so this rig here that I'm going to pass around, it has, well, I think I'm going to take these grubs off because you guys don't want that in there. I'm going to throw them in the sink. This is one thing that, you guys know who Chen is? Well, Chen's a friend of mine, and he's really a heck of a fisherman. But he's a funny guy, but he showed me one thing that was really cool, and if you tie these just right, you can take your hook and hook it into the swivel like this, and then it doesn't tangle in your gear when you're carrying it around. But you got to tie it just right. And also the thing to note on that thing is that there's a big split shot. If I want different weight for different depth, or I'm getting a different action, I'll just take a sinker and I'll just clamp it right onto the perch weight. And I always clamp the sinker on the bottom side of my perch weight because I want that thing to shoot down with a weight forward like an arrow. I want it to get down there quick. Even if I have no weight on it, I just still want it to shoot down there quick. That's the way if you notice, I make these myself. This is a bicycle spoke, really. And this one has kind of bigger swivels, but that one that I'm passing around first, it has, this is a stainless steel. That's like a rusting steel. But anyways, the swivels and split rings that I use nowadays are really tiny. And there's a reason for that. You remember when you would buy the perch sinker and have a big washer on the end of it? Well, older electronics required that. You had to really see it, and you didn't have that much resolution, so you had to know that, well, the distance between this washer and my jig is like 18 inches. So you knew that, and you had to calculate that in your mind when you were actually looking at your Vexilar. But now, the Vexilars, they're just so much more advanced. I want to see the jig. If I have a washer, that's like an umbrella. It's blocking my view. I want to see the jig. So I want my swivels and split rings to be small so I can get access to my jig, but I still want to see the split ring and swivel because I want to still know 1, 2, 3. I'm the third dot. So anyways, the real importance with jigs is the sharpness. So when you look at the jig on that I'm passing around, just take and drag it on your fingernail, and it should just catch immediately. I mean, if I'm doing things right, that thing is not out of the package that way. you touch them up. So you get yourself a steel, you know, just you have to find what works. And the way I like to sharpen my hooks is imagine the tip of a knife blade. Like I always like to think of like a big chef's knife because that's really big and you can imagine it. So if this is the point of my hook and here's my curve of my hook, my arm like this, what I like to do is I sharpen the tip of the knife blade. I'm trying to actually have a cutting blade with both sides on the inside of the curve of the hook and then flat across the top like the back of a knife blade. So it's like a triangular spear shape. It's not just a, well, in the heat of battle, you just get her done, you know. But I'm saying if you're actually going to hone a hook, you do it, I do it by sharpening it, like imagining that I'm sharpening the tip of a point of a knife blade. But this is just a little hook sharpener here. And it actually will, you used to take it apart and put it into each other, but I just super glue it because if I have it where you can put it into each other, I always lose part of it, and the part I lose is the important part. The other part is clipped to my shirt pocket. So the thing is that for the bait, I already talked about, I like to use spikes, and I don't really care how they're hooked on as long as they stay on there and they're providing scent to the fish. But the main thing is that they stay on there. And there's other baits that I'll use. One of my friends is Dan of Dan's Taxidermy, and he gave me like an actual beaver tail. So I keep it in the freezer, but I'll cut a chunk of that and slice it into tiny little baits. And that stuff's really tough. And you can buy stuff like that too. That's just a bait option. The other thing is plastics. I remember going perch fishing one day, and I get to the lake, and I unload my four-wheeler, and I get everything, and I'm out there. Oh, I forgot my spikes. You know, it happens. But I had my bluegill plastics because, you know, your ice fishing park is really a wearable tackle box. So I just went ahead and put on my red plastic tails, and I had one of the best days. But it was just by necessity. So really, you shouldn't have a closed mind. I mean, I'm very closed-minded. I have my ideas. You know, you see that one jig I'm passing around. It's like, that isn't tied on my pole, you know, 90% of the time. It's probably tied on to start the day 100% of the time because I have just such confidence. I've caught fish on it before. I know how to work it. I know my rigs are balanced. I got such confidence that I'm going to make the fish eat this because I just feel that I can do that. And you have to have that kind of feeling about what you're doing because otherwise it's just going to be more of a luck thing. I think you have to be kind of forceful and you have to be aggressive because you are the predator. So you have to decide, I am going to catch this fish. But what I will say to you is try other things. So you know, there's stuff out there that you'll see me actually fish with other things. Sometimes when I give these talks, I get carried away and everything like that, but here's like a really nice jigging spoon that just came out, and their big thing is that it's zinc, it's not lead. And then of course you've heard about the Tikka minnow. So these are the little perch-sized Tikka minnows. And I've used jigging rapalas for perch. I've caught a lot of them on that too. There's a guy that I just ran into, an old friend, Eric Stavlo, and I remember seeing him years ago out on Mendota, and he would have a group, like here I'm giving a seminar, well he would give a seminar on the ice, he'd have a half a dozen people circled around him, and he'd be kneeling on the ground, and he'd be giving this spiel like a circus carnival guy, and he would have, I got the waxworm on the treble hook just like a donut, and he said that I've got a perch, he's like a dog sniffing another dog's tail, right? Oh my God! And people are just amazed. But yeah, Eric Stavlo, he was actually on the Team USA that went to Canada and got second place, and actually Dave Gens was on that team too. So I'm very fortunate. I get to hang with a lot of really high-end fishermen. I mean, there's people that are involved with these programs, and so when you get to fish with people that are really good, it helps you. And the other thing that I think I've learned a lot is by doing tournaments, by traveling. I mean, the tournament itself is going to push you to your limits because you have to do well. You know, the clock's running. You got to catch the fish, you know. But also traveling, to New York State, to Iowa, everyone talks about Okoboji, you've seen Wabe, Devil's Lake, North Dakota, Lake Winnipeg for the greenback walleyes, Illinois. It does make you a better fisherman. And that's the thing about Dave Gens is that if you ever get the chance to hang out with Dave, do it. He's just a real good, down-to-earth person, and I really respect that. In fact, I try to emulate that in my own small way because I feel that Dave doesn't think he's all full of himself, but he has such knowledge and such experience because he does travel and he gets to fish a lot. Like this guy puts a lot of days on the water out there, and he's still doing it. He'll probably be coming to Madison this winter sometime after New Year's. And, definitely I want to get hooked up. So the big thing is balance. So let's see if I can get can I grab one of those poles again? The one that has the white twist tie. Because I want to show balance. If you don't know what balance is, then you're just missing the boat. That your rigs must balance because you have to, thank you, Ranger. You have to have balance in your rigs. If you don't, you're just not going to catch very many fish, if at all. So, like the rod that I'm using has a certain amount of flex to it. And the weight that I have tied on has a certain amount of weight to it. And so I've found with this particular perch weight that I can get good strike detection. I can sit here like this and I can jig and I can, make sure that I'm watching my rod tip. And typically, especially if you don't have something that, that will keep your line open, you want to be constantly jigging. So like Dave Gens will call it pounding. Because if your line, like when I do kids clinics and stuff, I say, don't have your line touching the hole. Because if you do that, it's going to deaden it, even if a fish bites, or it's going to actually stick to the ice and it's going to just totally camouflage the bite. So you always, when I tell children, always keep the line in the middle of the hole. Now with a kid or an adult, if you're just holding it there, you're jigging it, more or less. But what I like to do, because, I'm supposed to be into it, and I think you guys are too, you want to be jigging. And you want to be working that jig, and you want to be like bringing it down, but typically you're jigging up. So you're making this thing go and you're watching on the Vexilar, and you're watching the fish, and the fish is watching the jig, and you run out of arms sometimes because you just keep working that thing and you're staring at the Vexilar, and then you got to watch your rod tip. But the point is that I'm doing an up and down presentation because any motion that's imparted that's not caused by me is, in my opinion, caused by the fish, and I just set the hook. I just got to rail him right then, right now, because he only has it in his mouth for a limited amount of time. And if you didn't set the hook, he'll just go on his merry way instead of sitting in the bucket with them other ones. So you got to really, and the old saying is that hook sets are free. And I would joke to my friend Stan Nichols, I said, well, you just gave it a really nice jigging motion because that's an attractor then. Because, when you swing and a miss, that's actually calling in other fish. Like, hey, what happened there, So that's the thing is you got to have a balanced rig. So you got to figure out your perch weight, and you got to figure out your rod, and you got to figure out your jigging motion. And 24-inch, now if you read Target Walleye, Brent McComas will tell you that you got to have a longer rod. The long rods are the best rods. And that's okay. But then why does Jim Kusuda use a 24-inch rod? I know it doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense. Okay, I guess we could dim the lights again. So this is back in the good old days here. That's Gene, and he was running the shack rentals and the ice shuttle sleighs out of D&S, and this was the good old days, and I was very fortunate to be able to fish with Gene there and spend some time with him because when he wasn't busy, he would goof around and fish. And look, I don't have ice armor on. What the heck, And not a hat with a name on it. So of course you guys know that the Madison Chain has a flotation requirement, and this is what I used to run. It's actually a good rig because there's no way that thing can flip over, and you're actually high and dry, because if you do break through, your tires have flotation air in them, and often those floats that are attached with those steel brackets, they'll just hit the ice, and you can actually, you're only in up to the middle of your tire. So, but these I can't use anymore. So if anyone wants to buy them, I'll sell them. You know, I'll talk to Pat here. But I just run one of these things now, which is more of, oops, let me go back. There we go. A formality, the Nebulas, and they're very compact, you know, about the size of a laptop case. But see, as you can see, your machine is submerged there. Like, you'll have a nice little life raft. It's an excellent rescue thing. Like, if you saw someone in trouble, you could inflate it, and it's like a belly boat almost, or you could push it out to them and have a rope tied to it where you could loop it on your trailer hitch or your four-wheeler and get them out. But yeah, the old school floats, they were the ones. This is the safest, but I have a utility trailer that won't allow me to drive in and out of it with those on anymore, so they're just sitting in my rafters unused. Now this is a slide that my friend Todd put together when we were doing a presentation for Ice Team University, and that's one of the things that Clam puts on, where we have paid participants and we go to a destination and they get Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 3 nights in a hotel and all the meals. Us pros, we don't get paid, but we're like guides, so to speak, and we get our expenses paid for. Once we're there, we don't have to pay for lodging and food. So it's really a fun experience because the participants get to hang out and fish with the guides, and then we give presentations too in the evening. So if anyone wants to watch us, then they can. But these are the 3 basic safety items that you should really consider, because if I'm ever gonna, you know, talk about ice fishing, you know, I have memories of old Officer Brandley, David Brandley, given his presentation at the Madison Ice Fishing Show, and he always ended a section, "or you will die." And it's like, wow. And then he'll talking about, "or you will die." So it's like, that's the reality of it. And I've been through, you know, so it's nothing to, you gotta prepare mentally to go through. Ice fishing is inherently dangerous. You're walking around in a membrane of changeable stuff over water that's cold enough to kill you. It's dangerous. So let's be smart about it, and let's have a plan. Let's feel confident that we know how to escape and how to get safe. Let me get my clicker working here again. Okay, so this is what we're going to be looking at pretty quick when we get first ice. You're out there walking along merrily and you see something that looks like this. Should you step on it? Okay, what if you got a 1/4 inch of snow? What about it now? So I'm just telling you that there are spots out there that are like this, and I don't have the slide up for it, but like out from Mendota County Park last year, there was a hole that was, this is probably about 3 feet by 5 feet, but there was a hole that was a little smaller than that just was there for a really long time. I don't know why, and there's plenty of snow. What was it? Yeah, could be. Yeah, so anyways, all this talk about safety. So then as the season goes on, now you're dealing with heaves, and you're trying to figure out, how do I deal with it? You know, I got to get out there to go ice fishing. And so, you know, that spud bar thing, like, I like to remember to bring a spud bar. I'll just bungee it on the front rack of my four-wheeler. You know, it's a collapsible one, so it's only like 4 foot wide or less, but you can extend it and screw it into itself. But sometimes you have to kind of chop down a hill, a wall. I didn't do that. This is fine. You can go up and over it. But this is what you really run into like later in ice. See, that's Maple Bluff there. See, like I'm kind of, my back is to Warner Bay, and I just came across this here. So I thought, you know what? Now that I'm relaxed again after being all tensed up and ready to jump off and go swimming, I'm going to take a picture of it. But this is what you're dealing with out there. And you got to find the best way and the safest way. Now, this is a good old picture. My friend Charlie Grimm, who passed a couple years ago, was helping me put together some, remember the old carousel slideshow? This is, you know, like we were out there on, oh no, this must have been a digital camera. That picture from Gene was from the old carousel slideshow. But anyways, this thing here, we were out there near the Commodore, and it's a first ice conditions. The ice isn't real thick, but it's safe enough, and you can see I have my side flotation on there on the four-wheeler and stuff. And this was the good old days where you could ride two up on an ATV safely. And what I'm trying to show here is that, see, I'm looking for fish without even drilling a hole. So there's a fog, it's a foggy, rainy kind of day, and I'm actually just walking around with a FL18 and touching the watery ice with the transducer, and I can tell if there's a school of fish there. And this is like one of the best ways to find fish with a Vexilar. There's other ways to do it, but this far and away is one of the better ways, because you just have no need to drill a hole until you actually see a bunch of fish. So, of course,
How thick of ice can you go through?
Oh, if it's first ice, I would say a good 6 or 8 inches, because first ice is good, clear, solid ice, so a transducer doesn't even see it. It just shoots right through. It's like how they can have shoot through the hull kind of transducer. So if it's solid and has the integrity of being clear ice, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I don't really know. I haven't tested that, because by the time the snow hits and then it freezes again, now you can't do this. Now you would have to maybe like scrape a spot with your scraper and pour a little water in there. And by the way, don't ever use antifreeze, just use water, because we don't need to pollute our lakes. You know, they get enough of that action without us being idiots. Okay, so now this is actually the first generation of what they call panoptics, and being me, I had to rush out and get this thing, and I did. This is like in December 2017, and I got this unit, and it actually is really a good unit. And the thing that's really nice about it is that it doesn't have an amplifier, so I would just run this quite often off my four-wheeler battery. I just have it wired right into the four-wheeler battery and never had a no-start condition, because it didn't have that black box. But it doesn't have the detail. That's the thing with LiveScope, the detail and stuff, but it has plenty of range. So what this is showing is that, see, the zero line is where I'm at. I'm up here, and this here is like 30 feet of water or something. Let's see if I can magnify that. I still can't see the numbers real good. Yeah, it's like 35, but the reality is that I was in about 30 feet of water. See, this here is lack of fish there, and that's the 30-foot line. This is the 35-foot line. And then the distance is 20, 40, 60, 80. So between, say, 60 and 20, 30 and 60, this is a 30-foot school of fish right there. That's what you want to see. And you can actually just walk in that direction that you're pointing the swivel pole. Here's the swivel pole. And drill a hole and throw your Vexilar right in. See how I have this is the PS22 Panoptics, and I have it tilted down one click? Well, I wasn't really smart enough, because I'd always say, man, this thing isn't working very good on Mendota, you know, because I'm always fishing out there, you know, in 45, 50 feet, whatever it is. It's deeper water than that other lake that was only 30 feet deep. It's just not working well. My friend said, you got to go 2 clicks. Oh, now it works just great. But it was too late, because I had already had my heart set on LiveScope, so I went ahead and sold the PS22. But this is how I want to show you. This is how the ice bundle comes for the LiveScope. And the backs of both of those units is in a line. You can't see it, but like, if you put a ruler across the backs, it's touching both of those, and you can see these little blue boxes sitting on the table. So this thing is a hog, and it comes, with a nice protective case, and it has the battery in the back, and it has the black box, which is the amplifier, and then it has the screen, 9-inch screen, and I have a screen cover clipped on it and stuff. But it's just really big and bulky. So I just wanted to show you, this is kind of why I do what I do. And so what this is showing how I have it broken down, and in a minute I'm going to show you how I break it down. But this is showing the way that it's on my ATV, because I really want to show you how I use it. That's like my driving GPS, see? So that's there on a you just get a ram ball and get the one for a 7/8 inch pipe, which is a handlebar diameter. You clamp a ram ball on there, and then you got your driving GPS. And then you have down here your gun rack. Next picture shows the gun rack better, but that swivel pole, see, it's clipped in the gun rack there. And then see that red Milwaukee tool bag in the middle there. We'll get to that. But this is it without the, I don't have the swivel pole and the, Milwaukee tool bag. But there you can see the gun rack on the very front of the four-wheeler rack. See that? You just jam the swivel pole in there. It's got to all be like quick and easy, because you got to remember this is ice fishing here. You know, we're cavemen. We're going to bust it. So then this here is an extra plug. If I did want to plug in 12 volts either to charge my battery or power up a device, I've got a 12 volt little charger port for that. And then the, of course, you know, and there's no real mounts here. This here is a mount for an auger. This here is the auger mount. And of course, you know, we got the ball mount for the head. But if you remember going back, the thing had the bag there, the red bag. Okay, so now, Ranger, can we get the lights back on? And this is just what I came up with, because it's fast and dirty. I mean, you guys can probably come up with, and there are probably better systems and stuff, but I'm going to show you what I do here. Oh, one thing I wanted to, before I forget about it, have you guys ever seen these things here for tip-ups? Like if you're going to run tip-ups at night or even in the daytime, because, you know, if you have a tip-up, you always kind of got to keep an eye on it, like even if you're jigging for bluegills. But I don't like to do that. I like to concentrate on my jigging. I have enough hard of a time. I'm looking one eye at the Vexilar, wanting to kind of see that, but mainly the rod tip. Electronics does not catch the fish. You have to catch the fish. So the way the blue tips works is that you can get a thing that's actually, there it's on. And that has a range of 1,000 feet. And you can get a receiver, like sometimes I don't want to use my cell phone, you know, but that's what a blue tips is. And then you can log on, you know, there's an app, and you can take a picture of your fish and keep a chart of everything that you had and stuff. But anyways, let's go on. We're going to the live scope. So the way that I rig this is like, here's my live scope head, and I'm just going to put this on because I want to protect the screen. There's also like a neoprene stretch cover that Cabela's used to sell, but of course they don't, because everything that I like, people quit making. So anyways, the deal is that, remember I showed you in that ATV picture, you got this here is your, this is how it comes off here. And you have a ram ball mounted on your handlebar. So you just clamp this right onto your handlebar. So then now it's like, what is the other parts of it? Well, the other parts of it are, you get some longer cables, because the ones that come with that little bundle are short. So you can get cable extensions or longer cables. So here's a couple of 6-footers. I think they're about 6 feet long. And I talked about that red Milwaukee tool bag. So then this here is kind of independent now And what I got in this red bag, you saw the cables, but what I got in here is the black box amplifier, see? That's in here, and then I have a foam board to protect the battery. The battery in here is very expensive because, you know, the new technology in batteries is incredible. This thing is called nickel manganese cobalt here. It's the size of a Vexilar battery. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's the size of a regular 9 amp sealed lead acid battery. But it's NMC, and that thing has an incredible runtime on the live scope. Basically, I have to have a battery that'll get me through a long day of fishing, and that could mean walleyes in the morning, perch or bluegills in the day, and then walleyes in the night. I don't want to have it where my battery can't do all that, but I did want to pass around this, which is a lithium iron phosphate battery, and I just wanted to pass this around. This is just to show the difference between a sealed lead acid battery. Now that's only 6 amp hour, but you know these Vexilars don't really consume much anyways. But the point is that I've got my amplifier and I've got my battery. Now I've got to get my oh, I do have it hooked up, good. This is my swivel pole here. And this is the one that comes with the live scope bundle. And it basically, I just have a bag to protect the transducer because the transducer on these is really expensive. So I'm trying to protect mine. I put a little extra electrical tape around it to make it so it's a little protected. And, you know, for the guys that have it on a trolling motor mount, good luck, because man, if you cut this cord here, you know, I mean, if your trolling motor blade would touch that, you'd really be sad. And this thing here, this is kind of like this isn't really any good in a boat, but for ice fishing, it's like, I don't know. What I like about it is that I just jam it down a 6-inch hole because live scope will fit in a 6-inch hole. Like if you get like the Mega Live or the active target like Chen, he's my friend that people think I'm Chen, and sometimes I think they think that Chen is me, but we'll get to that later. But he has a nice Mega Live for his boat because he musky fishes and salmon fish. He's a good fisherman, but he won't bring it out ice fishing because he used a K-drill and it's a 6-inch, and he doesn't want to drill an 8-inch hole to stick a Mega Live in it. He's a funny guy because he doesn't like Vexilar, he likes Humminbird and stuff. But this thing also has the capability of doing the down view viewing, which I don't do a lot of, but it is interesting. You know, I'm so kind of set in my ways that I'm used to fishing with a Vexilar. I can interpret that and I'm comfortable with it. And like I said before, it's all about catching the fish, really. You only need so much information with electronics or what have you. But see, there's 3 elements to this thing. There's one here, there's one here, and there's one here. So see how I just clicked it? See, this is for forward view, and this is for down view, because then you bring the center element so it's parallel to the bottom. And then you would have to change your screen here to down view. So you go menu. Oh, it automatically did it. Okay. I was waiting for too long, but it actually did it, what it's supposed to do. So it saw that I had changed the transducer, and now it's doing down view. And the beauty of it, when you're running live scope, this thing has a super wide transducer coverage area. It really is. And so and you can see the fish are coming from right to left. You can see they're coming from right to left. You can see that. You can see the ones that go up. I mean, you can see them coming up on the Vexilar, but the point is that live scope is interesting. It's an image. It's not, it's sonar, but it's like such a high-end sonar. It's really incredible. But mainly what I wanted it for, you know, in the context of perch fishing, is just to be scanning and to be able to look off to the side. Because what we were doing commonly in the old days is we would drill a grid, kind of like a football field full of holes, and be walking around, and we would actually be dipping the transducer, and you notice that a lot of the times I don't have the float on my transducer. When I'm out there fishing, this is how you'll see me. I'll just have a Vexilar in my hand like this and a rod in the other hand. And I'll have more transducer cord out than this. I just set it up there so I wouldn't hit it on the ground. But I basically just have this thing so it's just ready to dip in the hole. And why do I have more than one stopper on here? I guess because I can, but sometimes I hook them up a little differently. Or if your stopper is slipping a lot, if you put two of them on, then it won't slip. But sometimes you'll put on one and want to use like the loop instead of the jamming it into the eye bolt. But this is how I fish. It's just with an eye bolt here, and I got this thing here, and I'll touch the water and there's no fish there. I'll touch the water and I touch the water and there's fish here. So now the perch weight goes in. I never even will throw down typically until I see what I want to see, and it might be that I really want to see more than one fish. But it's all fishing. This is just like, you guys are going to be out there doing this and having fun, and it's all about enjoying nature. But you fish the way you want to fish. And so we would actually stick this thing in the hole like we were on a grid, and you usually do this with 3 people. You don't want too many people because you'll clog up the holes you want to fish, but 3 is the right number. And you'll swing. Well, first of all, like if Monk has them, he'll say, I got him over here. So I'll go to the hole that's nearest to him and I'll dip, here they are, and I'll start fishing them. And then he says, they're going away, and then Riddler will say, I got them over here still, and then, you run around, and then, so instead of just dipping it to touch the surface of the water in the hole, you'll actually swing the transducer around and try to get it to look off to the side. So that's your old side imaging at the Vexilar. Yeah, and it is the thing because, it's all about expediency, and if you can get it done, you're going to be able to catch the fish. So now I want to be in my dragging sled. I don't like to be, well, first of all, when I'm on the four-wheeler and this thing is mounted to the handlebar, I have added an extra rod in here. See, the beauty of this thing is that it has extra sections. So here's like the surface of the ice here. And now I don't have to bend over because it's just, obviously this would be down lower than it is, but I can still go like this because I added extra section in. But I did want to show you, this is the Summit rig, and it's really nice. There's a lot of advantages to this one here. Now this is a more modern transducer because you see how mine has kind of like a double cord on it. This is like got the single neoprene cord. This is like a newer, better for ice fishing cord. But that's the thing. They're always changing stuff in electronics. So this is a 93 SV Plus. The guy that owns this just threw down $650 at Cabela's to get the 93 UHD. But the point is that this is a Summit swivel pole, and he has a nice bag here, and it'll do what is called perspective mode for shallower water. And like I said, these transducers have just I think it's like 105-degree viewing area. It's huge. And he has a really nice case that's custom fitted, whereas mine, I just jam it into a clam large battery bag, But the point is that the Summit rig here is actually got plastic legs here that fold up, and you can, if you wanted to, you can undo the clip and pull the transducer right off, so you don't have to have that all. But this is me, and this is my friends, and so but the disadvantage is that, see how low that is to the ground? See, when I have this thing on my handlebar, my four-wheeler, now I'm down here like this, I'm trying to see something that's right here, see? Whereas if I have my pole extension on the old cheap plastic pole, I can just see it without getting a backache. But when I want to go away from the four-wheeler, I'm all set. I just grab, try not to get my cables jammed up. I just have this block of 2x6, and I have a ram ball screw to it. And of course, you can tilt and adjust it any way you want.
That's a 2x8.
2x8. I guess I'm not a construction guy. So thanks, Jeff. So I just go like this. And other than my cables, you know, I'm totally mobile. So I'll go over here and I'll just throw this thing in my dragging sled like this and like this. And I'll tilt this a little bit and I'm fishing. So see, I'm totally independent here. They come with a really long cord, so you know, you get a rubber band and whatnot, but you can move this around. So a lot of times when I get to a fishing spot, and we'll come to this in the slides, I'll have like the battery and black box. See, this is totally independent. This doesn't have to come in the shack with me. This can just sit outside. You know, that's why I have a thing modular like this, because then I'll find a place for this thing, and it can be like just next to my leg, because I don't have to look at this. This is what I'm looking at. You know, I'll just loosen it up a touch and tilt it, you know, and get it to where I can see it good. And I'll have my Vexilar here, my fishing hole here, and this thing is just, if I get bored and I want to look around, I can see, you know what, I shouldn't be fishing here, I should be over that way about 50 yards. And you just, this is how I use live scope for perch fishing. It can be used for a lot of other things, and you guys that have these with open water boats and stuff, you know, you're going to have a lot more knowledge than I do. I don't really get to use it, you know, in the summertime, but I have had the experience where you'll see, you know, you're ready to wrap up because it's like feeling like it's the end of the day. It's really windy. You've caught a few fish. You're happy, but it's time to go. And then you see a mark off there, and it looks like it's coming forward. So it's like, well, okay, I'll reel up and jig, and then you catch a nice big walleye, you know. So it does have its advantages for perch fishing. But do I fish with it in down view? I don't know. We'll get to the next slide, I guess. But before I do, I'll put this up here because I thought, I was talking to Pat earlier, and I thought this was kind of interesting. I said, Pat, I'm really happy that your shop is so close to Lake Mendota because now I can bring up the map. And I don't know if you guys will be able to see it because there's no way for me to enlarge it, but let me scale it down to see Lake Mendota. And so we're here where this checkered flag is at D&S Bait, but those yellow and black things, that's the color I was set up for my tracking. And this is just from like, I don't know, must have been the last month of fishing because it overwrites as you clog up your memory and everything. But basically, I just wanted to show you guys that, wow, look at, Jim was running out of Warner Bay quite a bit. See that? Monk was right on my tail. And so there's a spot off of Maple Bluff. You want to tell them about that, Monk? And then if you look where they kind of end up, it's like out here. You know, remember that was Maple Bluff, the one side of Warner Bay, and then, but then you'll see little side trips over to here. Like, and if you look, if you could really zoom in on some of that stuff, it's really, those are like some of them bars off there, like, you know, what we call like the Tenny bar or what's relating to the Brewerly bars and stuff like that. And then, so, and you'll see, I drove around, like you'll see lines over to Governor's Island and, you know, for walleye fishing off of Governor's, and, or maybe even sometimes you would have to drive a crazy route just to get over the ice safely, you know. But the thing is that when you went to this side of the lake here, this is where I thought it was interesting. Let me find the lake. I can't even visualize what I'm trying to do here. Okay, there's Governor's there at the top. So here's the West Basin. Oh no, that's where we're at right now. Let me get around the point here. No, I can't even. do this right because I'm standing sideways. But those are just tracks of where I was fishing last year, and it's kind of cool to see it. But anyways, this setup is relatively simple. It's just something that I've come up with. It works. I'll just bungee this bag with the battery and black box in the middle, and I'll slam this thing on because, you know, this is a protector, so it'll stop you when you drop it and stuff from wrecking it. But yeah, you're just strapping this thing on the front rack, and this here goes in the gun rack, and the cord gets nicely wound up, you know, all piled up in a mess and a tangle like it's trying to do right now. But it's quick and dirty, and it gets the job done. And I'm not married to the four-wheeler, and I can see my screen, and life's good. So let's get back to, can we dim the lights again? So now they've seen you catching fish. This is what happens here. You're out here perch fishing, and no, this is actually the group of that Ice Team University, and we're on Lake Osakis in Minnesota. But you've all been there. You're out there ice fishing, and suddenly a crowd forms. And when I say a crowd, it's like this room here with us guys, and we're all trying to fish at once. Well, it's tough because of the fact that basically flashers and most marine electronics runs at 200 kilohertz frequency. And the way that sonar works is that you can hear with like these Vexilars, you can hear a clicking, you know, it's sending out a sound energy. I don't know if that's working or not, but it's sending out sound energy because it's zapping a barium titanate crystal, and there's receivers. Now Vexilar chooses to use open receivers, and that's because it wants to show a raw, unfiltered, you can probably see on that thing, I'm not looking at it, but you can see like it moves, you know, because the transducer is swinging. If you had like a bluegill, you could see the thing fishing as it, finning as it gets excited, and it's gonna bite. Raw, unfiltered, unmuted signal is what Vexilar gives you. Now the high wattage output units from the different manufacturers, like that looks good on paper. It's like if we're buying stereo equipment, we want a lot of wattage. But in reality, the transducers are about the same size, the same build. They have to actually mute and filter the return, because if you had a transducer that could receive 5,000 watts, it would be, you know, the size and weight of a bowling ball, which they have. You know, there are boats and stuff that goes out in deeper water, and they want to have high wattage sonar. But the point is for ice fishing, it's a thing that is zapping that crystal with that much energy, and yet you can't receive that amount. You have to mute and filter it. You're also breaking down that crystal to where you're potentially going to have a transducer failure. Vexilars have been around for years. You can just run them 24/7, 365. You won't wear out the crystal. So the point with what is new for Vexilar now, because it's really that the newest version here, the FLX-30, came out for people that are technically savvy and are trying to tune their FLX-28. Basically the start position, because there's a start mode, which just basically makes your FLX-30 run just like a 28. You know, it's got all the features, the 5-color flasher, you know, the 1,000 watt output with open receivers. Any Vexilar can use any transducer, but the beauty of the FLX-30 is that it has tunable frequencies. There's 7 different frequencies. And we'll get to that, but I'll flip through the slides. So here I'm running side by side. The FLX-30 is on the right and the 28's on the left, and I'm fishing. I got 2 poles in there, and I can tune out the interference. And Here's showing me like night fishing with the Vexilar and having the live scope there. But see, there's no, where's the black box? Where's the battery? Now, if you had that big ice bundle here, you'd have a big cloth sack here, you know. But that's all outside of the shelter because it's just got, you know, cords running to it. And then here I'm actually showing that the addition of throwing in an underwater camera too. This is really what I call electronics overload. I've got the live scope and down view, I've got the little underwater camera, and I've got the Vexilar running, and a little bit of rosy reds there in front of me, but I don't have any fish in the bucket. Just kind of, so this is my electronics overload here. Okay, can we get the lights back on? This is a slide that my friend Todd from Rockford put together, and I like it, so I just kept it on there. Yeah, so we were talking about the 30 being the multi-frequency thing. First of all, who fishes with a Vexilar? Okay, so a fair number of people are familiar with it. Who fishes with a flasher? Okay, so you're familiar with it, and you know what I'm talking about. Basically, I won't get into a huge explanation. The main thing I want to talk about is the fact that Vexilar is very reliable. They've been around, and if you call up and have a problem, you'll get a live person in Minnesota. They know you made an expensive purchase. It's an investment, really, because these things, you know, sell and trade like used cars and stuff too. But the point is that you're not trying to get something for nothing. They're going to try and get you back on the road again. And the majority of the problems are actually battery related, and I just had one, you know, the lithium battery, like this thing has the Vexilar lithium battery in it. I just ordered a lithium battery and had it, I thought it was good because I charged it. It went a normal charge cycle, you know, you got all these different chargers, and it came with this charger here, and it had the red light and it turned green after a couple hours. So I thought, oh, it's good. But I installed it in one of my units and it wouldn't turn on. So I checked with the voltmeter, it's 0.45 volts. Well, that's no good because my other good Vexilar battery, well, I've got a couple of them and those other lithiums, Amped Outdoors, another company, but you know, 13.26 or something like that. So I called him up and the customer service rep transferred me to a technical guy, and we had a discussion. He said, it's probably your control board, but it's inside the battery, so we can't repair it or do anything with it. So I'll transfer you back to customer service. They'll send you out a new one. And so I said, do you want the old one back? He said, no, just recycle it. So that's cool. But the point is that I rep two companies, Clam and Vexilar. Far and away, the main reason is because they have excellent customer service. I don't want to hear horror stories, and I don't. Basically, their stuff isn't cheap. There's sort of a customer service level built into that cost. But am I a shill saying that everything is great? No, I don't think that would do anything for me to lose credibility. There's items that I use from Clam, and there's items that I don't use from Clam. And there's stuff that I fish with, like when you saw that jig, it's like, I'm not even gonna go there with Clam. So it's just like, this is me, this is what I wanna do, and this is what I wanna use, you know? So I don't feel that I have to explain myself to them. So the major things that the Vexilar does, or any flasher, is it's gotta show you basically, it'll show you bottom composition in this slide, but the main thing that I need to know is I got to see the bottom, I got to know how deep it is, and I have to know that I can see the bottom, so I'm getting full screen on my Vexilar, and that's the beauty of the higher end unit. The FLX-20, the 28 and 30 both have a 10-foot minimum circle. That means that if you're fishing in, say, 8 feet of water, you can spread that all out on this display, whereas if you had a FLX 12, you hit minimum circle, or a FL8, it's a minimum circle is 20-foot circle. So you're squinching down 8 feet of information into a third of the screen. So anyways, you got to see the bottom, you got to see the fish, and you got to see your jig. And you can tune these things, and you should tune them so that, like, people will ask me, well, what do you set your gain on when you're in 55 feet of water? And I'll say, I always look at that as you got to play with it. You can't set it and forget it. You want to see, like, I'll travel, like when I'm running the 28, I'll travel and I'll have at least one extra transducer with me. This happens to be a ProView. This used to be called a 9 degree. But they found in their testing, they drilled a field, well, they drilled a frozen lake, let's say it's 30 feet deep, and they set this transducer in the middle of it, and they drilled a grid around it, and they would lower washers on a string. And they could actually say, well, with my gain set low so that my jig shows up as like green or orange, you know, because you don't want to have it red because you don't want to, you want to see like when it changes, like if you get picked off, like they steal your bait, you want to see that so it looks like a different mark. But the point is that when they cranked the gain, they could see washers 10 feet off to the side that were only halfway down. It's like, what? I thought this was a 9 degree transducer. I know, those are side lobes. So we'll call it the ProView. What they found is that all these transducers have secondary cones. So here is like a 19 degree. This is like what comes on your 8s and stuff. And this is like the widest viewing. And I'll still use this sometimes when I'm scanning for fish. And also I'll use it when I am driving around with a Vexilar on the four-wheeler, dropping the transducer in the hole, you know, have the blue box on the front rack, and then drive off forgetting to pull the transducer, running over the thing, snapping the cord, fortunately having the transducer pop out, and then having my friend who was, he's retired, Marv worked at the University Sciences Lab, and he said, well, that's just coax. So then he put a sleeve of shrink wrap, shrink tube, and soldered it all up and insulated with silicone. And it worked great, and then I sold it to Monk, and I think one of his nephews is still running that unit. So the Vexilar is a very basic unit, and I carry these other transducers because sometimes I like to have another view. But the funny thing about me is that this thing has a 12 degree transducer on it, and this is the one I really like. You know, it's like, well, why don't you run the ProView? Well, I do sometimes, but to me, that's the one that I can tune and get the most information out of, and I really like. And so that's the side lobe thing. See, the specified cone when the gain is down low is like, say, 9 degrees on the ProView, or 12 degrees on that one, or 19 on the one I showed you. But when you crank the gain, there's these side lobes that come out. So that's why I say, don't set it and forget it. Play with it, get a different view, try and figure out what's around you, because this sonar will give you more information than some people give it credit for. And so that's really a good slide, that this is sound energy. Remember, it's not light. It's not like a spotlight beam. And this is funny that people say, yeah, I saw the fish. It came up and it hit it. Or it came up and looked at it and went away. It went back down. No, well, yeah, that will happen, but no, that fish can actually come in from the side, be right under the hole, and now he's further away, and he has not changed his depth one bit. He's just displayed distance from the transducer. So obviously, if he's off to the side and you got the gain high enough to see it, he's coming in, and here it's 20 feet, and here it's 10 feet. So it looks like, yeah, the fish came up and looked at it. So that's why I always think this slide's pretty good. And suspended fish, of course, that's a really big thing, because when the fish are suspended, quite often they're ready to hit. You know, they're in that mood, and you know, you can't make a fish bite. If he doesn't want it, he doesn't want it. So you got to be on the right fish. You got to be lucky. Okay, can we dim the lights again? That's me posing as Chen. And then my friend Jeff, he passed away. He used to be a Middleton cop, Jeff Weiner. But all I can tell you guys is that if you ever get prostate cancer and you get it kind of taken care of, keep going in to get it re-evaluated constantly, because Jeff had it go into his bones. And so then once the cancer's in your bones, you're going to die. And so it took him 5 years, and he got experimental treatments, which actually made him feel good. But there's no way, you know, we've come a long ways in cancer treatment. And that's Slade there, Kevin Slade. He's a good fisherman. And then here's this wild man here. The guy here works at DNS.
Second best perch fisherman on the lake.
And he's got the side floats, the pontoons, and yeah, but look who's got the big pile of fish by their four-wheeler there. And this is first ice. Now, you see in the background, that's Governor's Island there. And that's Mendota Mental Health. You can kind of see their water tower or something. But we walked right out past the duck blind on the west side of Governor's Island. And this is like our first day out there perch fishing. And, well, that's a different day. But those are nice ones. You know what I mean? They're not, I don't really even consider those jumbos. And it actually looks like there's a bunch of our males, you know, which is higher percentage of meat. The females have to put a lot of energy in creating egg mass, but yeah, there's some females. But anyways, that's what I really, you know, feel like I'm satisfied if I can get some 9-inchers. And this was the last ice 2 seasons ago, and see how the surface is like what was like frozen hard is turning back into slush, and it's like this is time to leave. And this was the last day of 2022. And actually, when you think about 2022, meaning last season, it was pretty good, because this picture here was taken on March 14th. And I've always said, if I can be out over deep water perch fishing when it's St. Patrick's Day, it's been a good season, you know? So it's pretty close to that. But my last slide here is what we're actually talking about. That's the first fish of the season right there. And it's really a great feeling just to be out there and get that first. It's not a jumbo, it's just a okay, but you could tell by the look on my face, it's like, you know, this is the enthusiasm here. This is what you guys want to, you know, want to see and want to feel and enjoy the outdoors. That's about it. I'll be hanging around if you guys got things you want to look at, or, oh, well, Pat, you got some stuff to do here. I guess I'm done here.